Hello Marvel Heroes fans, this is a very short video on the legendary for Iron Man because I've got that query quite a lot of times in game. So I thought I'd do a short video on that, and also because I haven't got a chance to show you the mathematics behind the mega review that I've done for grade 80 legendary. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to just show you one case study here on how to derive certain numbers to determine yourself on certain gear, decision and so on. All right, so that is what I'm going to do in this video. So I've still got a lot of query on where do I get the grade 80 legendary. So I thought I'd just do a very short recap here. To get to Hammer Bay, you have to come to this waypoint here. If you don't have this opened up, you probably have to go to Xavier School, talk to Beast on the far left side of the room, and then they'll take a flight to Janusha. Okay, so this is where it is, and you come to this quartermaster here. Now there is certain kind of like an influence that you have to gain certain influence before you can purchase certain items. So you have a whole list of legendaries that you can purchase here for 1,000 OD mark, and good news to us, Gazillion listened to our feedback, and now there is a refund. The refund is 800 OD mark back, so I think it's all right. I mean, you take a penalty of 200 because you picked the wrong one, but at least you get 800 OD mark back. All right. For those who may have watched my video before, just a recap for in case you haven't watched it, if you are pure damage type, you are in very good shape. Congratulations. Physical, mental, and energy is always X, Warlock's Eyes, as well as the Cosmic Control Rod. You can't go wrong with all these three items. If you are Summoner, the good news is that there's Trident. It's really good. The not so good news is that there are many Summoners in this game that are competitive that worth 1,000 OD mark, in my opinion. But that's only my opinion. Then, if you're Hybrid, it's really disadvantaged in this grade 80 legendary batch because you don't really get to have all these goodies at all. So if you can deal that pure damage type like Psylocke, switch to mental, like Gambit, switch to range energy. I love my melee build. Then you can pick all those pure damage type. But if not, there's also a second option for you to either go for pure ranged or pure melee. So you can pick either the bow or Excalibur. Now they are inferior to the pure damage type legendary, grade 80 legendary. They cost the same, but I mean, sometimes you don't have choice in life, at least in this game. So that is one. If you are very hybrid, meaning that you're doing everything else, and you have to stick with your power cosmic, and you are probably about 7 at least 7% down in performance against your buddies. All right, who's rich enough to afford one of those grade 80 legendary. Now Iron Man is by right a very hybrid because he does both melee and range and physical and energy. The great news about Iron Man is that under his power, your bonus suit power, which is like the spirit or whatever that's on the bar here, the bonus suit power 300% become your damage rating. So that is very nice. Now you have an option of the crystal. So for those who may not stay on for the mathematics behind how I derive all these numbers and bars and chart and so on, if you have 1,000 OD mark, definitely is the crystal. The crystal is wonderful because it has 1,000 damage rating, and the 300 the 300 suit power at rank 1 will become 900 damage rating. So all in all, it's 1,900 damage rating. It's very comparable to Cosmic Control Rod as well as to Warlock's Eyes. If you just look at the pure crit and damage rating at that perspective. All right, so. All Iron Man out there, pick the crystal for grade 80, but if you cannot afford a grade 80 legendary like me, pick the power cosmic because that's pretty good. But that requires you to do 2 damage types, so some may be on pure energy. So yeah, I mean, but I think it's quite easy to get the physical prop as well because you have all the missile and so on. So the next bit is really about the mathematics behind it and the. And if you like to see a gap, I'm show you the main chart first. If you like to see a gap, that is also a very good to see what are the things that you may lose out if you don't use the right legendary. All right, so okay, this is I'm going to show you this one later. So the first thing that you need to look into is this one here. Oh, sorry, what am I talking about? This one here. All right, so when I say melee Iron Man, it's not really melee as per se. Okay, so it means that you use the middle tree a lot for your main damage, spenders. But for melee Iron Man, you are actually dealing around 60% melee, but still about 40% on the range as well, because all these Jericho bombardment, all these missile and stuff like that going on, one off, everything is ranged. It's only the punch and as well as the death from above, which is melee. So when I say melee Iron Man, I'm really about that kind of build. But even if you are not a melee Iron Man, meaning that you are energy and so on, I'm very confident 100% that Crystal 80 is still the best. All right. I've got now. Why do I bring in the axe as well? Because it seems irrelevant, but believe me, I do have friends who really thinks that melee Iron Man is all about physical power. So I thought I'd bring in the axe as well for comparison, to sort of like, if you really insist of going the path of physical, I mean, you still have you still have some energy damage out there. So yeah. So looking at this chart, Crystal 80 is still the best, 100% score. If you pick X or Gunil, I mean, X is just for study here. I mean, it shouldn't even consider that. But if you pick the Gunil by mistake, you are actually losing about 5% of the score compared to, say, the right one, the Crystal. Power Cosmic 2 damage type proc is about 893%. So you are losing. You don't have that 7% gain from the from the right legendary. So but at the grade 70 region, if you are comparing, say, a Gunil 7, because some people like to pick the Crystal at grade 70, so you can take a look at the difference between the Crystal 70, which is here, and the Power Cosmic 70. There's quite a big gap here as well. So if you operate at the grade 70 region like I do, then you probably want to just pick the Power Cosmic, and it's quite free in my sense, because World Stone, by the way, this is a cosmic event that you should farm the World Stone. You really should consider getting a Power Cosmic. To me, it's free. It doesn't require effort in doing legendary, and you need the OD mark, every single one of them, to probably for one of your favorite hero for the 1000 OD mark. All right, so there is a chart behind it, and I hope that is convincing enough. And I'm very convinced that even because all these are consistent story that I've been whichever endgame hero that I go for is always the same story, that there will be one that's the best. Crystal for Iron Man, but pure damage type is always one is the best. And there's also always Gunil that's hanging around that region that is losing about 5%. So no one would ever buy Gunil 80 at all, although the burst damage looked really good on video. Yeah, so for some of us that stuck with the Power Cosmic 70, you know what the gap is. All right. So the next bit is about the I'm going to show you the mathematics behind how I derived this whole thing. And first time also in my video, this damage model is being evolved one step further to take care of the hybrid, because Iron Man does physical, Iron Man does energy. So first is to figure out, like in my Iron Man video, is to figure out what is your damage ratio between the physical and the energy and the melee as well as the range. So I'm not going to go too much about it. Basically what I've done is I picked all the power that I'm using, and to actually link them together to give me an idea of like how much DPS come from energy, how much DPS come from physical, as well as range and melee as well. So that gives me some kind of idea when I pick certain gear, I know what kind of sacrifice I'm making. All right. So in my Iron Man spreadsheet here, I actually spread out the physical and energy damage, as you can see. As for the crit, because I use the same crit for both physical and energy, so it doesn't really make a difference. Just to recap, for those who may be new to this whole damage model, what I am talking about is that when you look at there's another video on damage explained, so just bear with me for those who have already seen it thousands of times. The normal damage is just 100% plus all the rest of the base damage, blah blah blah, that I'm going to show you later. Those are the normal damage. Those plus rank, everything goes there. Then sometimes you crit, sometimes you don't. So you always look at the average performance because sustained DPS is something I'm after. I'm not really after the one big fat number you get from the brutal, while the rest of the time you just don't have anything else. So the crit percentage will determine how big this yellow box is, and the brutal is actually the crit of crit, so that is this part here. Crit damage is the part when you actually deal a crit, how much crit damage you have got. And the brutal damage, remember, brutal is always including the damage rating. So whatever brutal damage rating, crit damage rating by right divided by 80 is the percentage, but you have to plus the synergy, and for the brutal's perspective, you have to plus the crit damage rating as well. Sometimes I forgot that in my formula, so the number could look a bit odd. So sometimes when you see a number look a bit odd, usually you're wrong. I mean, you make a mistake somewhere. It's good because this is a journey that we always try to learn, all right? So base damage for my Iron Man is 45%. Those come from plus fighting. Damage rating, I always say ignore this one because the damage rating is being absorbed into either physical or energy, so you do not want to double count your damage rating, all right? So physical base is from strength. Physical damage rating is whatever from a gear divided by 40, all right? That becomes the number that here from the score sheet. You can just copy from there. And the energy is the energy rating is I don't really have a lot of plus energy. I'm more for plus strength. All right. Then the energy rate damage rating is also from the gear. Also for this Iron Man, by the way, I'm using a crit damage gear with 4 toggles on, but I do not consider of the rune stones because I think for me I picked the I think for hybrid we should just pick the power do, but in the case you want to put in low key, or in case you put in other things, so I don't want to just keep putting different kind of like parameter onto this spreadsheet, but you will get a lot better if you put in the rune word as well. So the physical crit is about 2,738. Always take the number itself because there's a diminishing return to determine what is the actual crit that you get from here. You can do a Google Google Marvel Heroes Compendium. That's what I always do. There are several versions, either web version or you can get the. I usually go for the spreadsheet version because it's actually have a lot more information that I think it has a more friendly information for me to copy information if you like to do some kind of theory crafting. So I always go to stuff like there's one that is called diminishing return. I hope I found it without wasting your time too much. Somehow there is a diminishing return, and I think it's a formula on DPS and so on. So these are some of the formula for you as well if you're into that kind of formula. And these are the so-called diminishing return that I'm talking about. I think, yes. So you have all this percentage here. You have all this rating being converted into percentage. So there's always a 5% gap between the next one. So how we model, how at least I model, is that it's very hard to model without the formula itself. I mean, so what I usually do is do a linear modeling between the 5% interval. So this is a curve, right? It is a diminishing return. The higher you get, the more rating you need to for the extra 5% push. So what I do is that between these two numbers, I'll just linearize it for my approximation. But I think if you are already watching this part of my video, you're probably quite sound in mathematics and know how to get anything between. So if you get like a crit rating of 2,900, then you know that you have to look into these two range. So it's somewhere between 40 to 45, and then work out the interval there. All right, so that is it's important to have this one, and important to know that what come from what synergy, because this will not be included into this rating. So after you've done your math to convert this one into the actual crit, you have to manually add back the 4%, 2% onto it. All right. Same for brutal. Brutal is same thing, diminishing return. The difference is that the brutal, I presume you have Hela. So whatever number that you get from your from the compendium, add the 2% from Wolverine if you have that. Add 20% from Hela if you have that too. So that is very important for your brutal. So you have to work out the brutal strike rating as well. So all in all, the physical normal damage is always the base plus the physical base plus the physical damage rating. As simple as that. I could have mixed in the melee and the range, but it get a little bit complicated. And I don't think my focus is on melee and range here, all right? Because all this legendary is, I'm not looking into Excalibur, so there's no point for me to look into it. So you have all this physical, so for physical normal damage rating, which is whatever you have there. And what is the booster? The booster is the part that I talk about in this part. This yellow and red part is the one that really scaled up your damage, because whatever here is multiplied by this one. So you need to work out on average. On average, you don't do just 100% of damage. You do a lot more than that because of all this crit damage you have, brutal damage you have, crit chance you have, brutal chance you have. All these come in this particular formula that I use here. All right. And I do the same for energy. Now, of course, energy normal is a bit less. I know the split between the physical and energy, so that's why I know my average damage rating, average damage here. All right. So whatever the game design as a number, you actually multiply by all these things. All right. So all this become a scenario here. I mean, it's quite easy. I can just pick a few. Right. I can look into Power Cosmic probably because it's the most complicated one. Power Cosmic +2 to all attribute, including +2 fighting. +2 fighting, what does that mean? It means that +6% base, so I add a 6% there. Physical base, +1 strength, what does that mean? +2 strength, what does that mean? Is +8, right? So that is how you calculate the physical base. Then you have the damage rating, 1,500 on physical, so you have to add that in, divide by 40, divide by 100. Same go for the energy as well, same treatment. And the crit wise, you have to manually add 60 because those from the plus intelligence. All right. Then the crit damage rating have to be modified as well because the intelligence give you the crit damage rating. That don't forget you have to put it in the brutal as well. All right. So that give you all in all the average rating of so on. So the rest are just mathematics to see what is the. I always look at the max, like this number over the whole max of everything that I use for. So I hope at least I give you a glimpse of my world, and it is still evolving, and I'm still trying to find an easier way to represent this, but it's getting a little bit more and more complex, like all things in life. So thank you for sticking by this video. I know it's a little bit long, but I also aware that some are really interested to know the mathematics and may get a little bit unhappy if I get it a little bit too fast and they miss out certain details. So I thought I share with you all these things, and as always, pick the crystal, because crystal 300 suit power is the 900 damage rating that's being reflected onto all these things here, and it is a very, very desirable legendary for Iron Man if you love Iron Man a lot. All right, see you next time. Bye.